My theme is art that describes the world, and that is not necessarily figurative or illustrational, but art that is a response to the world, a visual response, not a journalistic one, not written, not musical necessarily, but visual.
There's plenty of art that describes the world here. And there's also a real focus on environmental and climate change concerns, borne out in more than one of the exhibition's 14 gallery spaces.
With 1,600 works on display, it could be easy to feel a little overwhelmed, but each room is curated by a different Royal Academician, which gives it a real variety of style. And the best thing about the summer exhibition is its parity. An unknown artist is given as much prominence as a Tracy Emin or a George Baselitz.
Of course, there are a lot of famous artists on show. From Royal Academicians, like current President Christopher Lebrun's paintings, to Benedict Burns' sculpture, The Scarred One. The extraordinary and the ordinary hang side by side. Crucially, there are many works that are surprisingly affordable.
This is the only selling exhibition in the Royal Academy's calendar, because all the other exhibitions are loan exhibitions, survey exhibitions of historical or contemporary. But what I think that I'd like them to just get the theme that it's about today, that it's about the lyrical mixed up with the brutal, that there's violence and compassion, and everything that's out there is represented. I wanted to pull everything in somehow or another, and I think it does that at least, whether you like everything or not. I hope that that is palpable.
Mcphadians had some fun with it too. This, the central hall, contains a menagerie of rare animals, a play on the preconception that the summer exhibition always features one or two pet portraits. With its long history, there have been 250 years of summer exhibitions already. It can be a challenge to ensure new perspectives.
We do look at the freshness of the summer exhibition and its relevance very carefully, and that's something that we give great consideration to. One of the things that helps us is to change the committee of artists working on the exhibition every year, so we're continually getting a fresh vision. And to encourage those new academicians, like this year for the first time we had Jane and Louise Wilson, who are very, very freshly elected members, come in, and Bob and Roberta Smith. And of course what those artists do is bring a very different sensibility, so that they're looking at everything in a very different way.
The Royal Academy's 251st summer exhibition runs until August the 12th. There are direct political commentaries too. "We are all immigrant scum," reads Jeremy Deller's piece. Banksy makes an appearance, with a rat trying to smash the lock, keeping EU arrivals shut out. And finally, back in the courtyard, Thomas Hausego's humanoid sculptures leave you with a sense of scale and wonder. Miranda Atty, TRT World, London.
And here to discuss the summer exhibition is International Museum consultant Ma Dixon. Ma, welcome to the show. For people not familiar with the summer exhibition and what it's about, could you just characterize it a little bit for us and explain it?
It's a fascinating exhibition of amateurs to professionals that happens in London every single year at the Royal Academy. And 15,000 people submit their application, and 1,500 are chosen off of the one person who is running the show that year.
And you've been to the exhibition. What did you make of it? What were your first impressions?
I kind of love the eclectic style of it all. I mean, this year was very much a mood of political with the whole environment that's happening in the world today. But it wasn't a downer. It was actually really fun. It was upbeat. It was that sarcasm that you expect from artists these days.
do you think that this year was more political than usual?
In a way, but I think that it reflects what's going on in the world today.
Okay, so there was the Banksy piece that's getting a lot of attention. That was quite political. Did you see that piece?
I did, and that Banksy piece was actually first shown there in 2018, and they brought it back for this show. And I think a lot of the art pieces that you'll see when you attend there are a little bit political, a little bit in your face about Brexit and about the politics going on around the world. And I'm American, I can talk about the States. But it's not like, if you don't like politics, it's not a downer also.
And something that stood out to me looking through the collection is there's a lot of animal paintings and sculptures. Animals feature really, really heavily. And why is that?
Yeah. I think that was, so Jock Mcphee, who is curating the show this year, it was kind of a takeoff on a pun that he was having. It was like an internal joke for him to have that, because people do expect to have animals, because they expect that in an amateur show that it's going to be animals and landscapes from the parents and people who are doing it. And that's not necessarily it. So he gets the animals done and over with as soon as you walk in, and then you really don't see them throughout the show.
Why are amateur artists more likely to paint landscapes and animals?
Because that's what they're seeing. So when people start taking up art as a thing, they look at landscape or still life, so they reflect what they're actually seeing when they're trying to hone in their skills. So that's why people expect that, because of the Royal Academy allows amateurs to well-known artists to submit their works, you're going to get a variety of it. And they do get the landscapes and they do get the animals, but this show is never just about that.
And of course, that's completely in line with Jock McFadden's idea and theme for the whole show, which was art, which is a response to the world. Did you feel that walking around? Could you really feel that theme?
I actually did, yeah. And I think that it was really impressive of how you go into each room and there's a different vibe, and each room had a different label or a different subject matter, but it wasn't just inclusive to that room. It kind of like the thread was there throughout the whole exhibition, which is really well done on his end.
Let's talk about Grace and Perry's exhibition last year. How did they compare? What did you find was different?
I think, in fairness to Grace and Perry, who I absolutely adore and love also, I think that he is a character in his own right, and the fact that he had the 250th anniversary of the Royal Academy show was always going to be a big blockbuster, and Jock had a lot to fulfill with this year's, and I think that the comparison is they both took subject matters that mattered at the time of the year that they were on exhibition. And they both did it very, very well. I love the fact that there was a little bit, probably for me, each room had different color schemes. A lot of the walls were whiter this year than they were in the last couple of years. And it worked completely for this whole exhibition.
And Ma, this is one of the only exhibitions that is curated by an artist every year. And what kind of difference do you think that makes?
It makes a huge difference, and I think that's one of the benefits of having the Royal Academy that was started by artists. And actually, back in when it started 251 years ago, it was actually one of the only places where artists started it themselves because they wanted a place to present. And there was actually, even back then, there was 2 female artists that were involved in the whole creation of the Royal Exhibition. And I think that really reflects on how they choose each artist every year and how they get involved in who's going to be running the show every year, and why amateurs are so important. And we have to remember the Royal Academy also has a school associated with it, which not a lot of places do in the world anymore. And they have been doing a great job in inspiring new and up-and-coming artists along the way, including Turner and Constable, who we now know as worldwide names. But back then, they were just amateurs like everybody else.
Ma, thank you very, very much for your insight today. Thanks for joining us on Showcase.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.